Hey guys, this is Dennis, the founder of Think Hero.
And I'm David Griffin, your resident comic book and video game guru.
And this is our review of Game of Thrones, Season 4, Episode 5, the midway point.
Yep, we're already halfway there.
Yeah.
The first of his name, Tommen gets, his a little time to shine there. Gets his crown put on his head. He's a big man now. Big man in charge.
I really like this episode. I thought there was a lot of great moments in it. Let's start with King's Landing. Tommen gets crowned as king, and we get to see that scene. What was interesting is Cersei coming into Marjorie kind of trying to be nice.
Yeah.
But we know she has ulterior motives.
We get that from Cersei sometimes. We got it, if we remember back to season 1 with Catelyn. There was that really nice moment when Catelyn was sitting in the Bran's bedchamber as he was recovering from getting pushed out of a window, and she kind of opened up about her child that died. I think it was actually probably the one legitimate child she was going to have with Robert when he was alive, and every now and then she'll open up where you think wait, is she kind of trying to be nice, or is she I feel like sometimes, we got to see it twice this episode, but of course, as we know, we're going to get to Prince Oberyn later. There's always an ulterior motive with her, so she can't open up, but there's always something behind it.
Yeah, but I think I haven't read the books, but from what people tell me, the TV series version, she's much more. There's much more sympathy for her because
definitely, yeah.
Because she's more multidimensional.
Yeah, I can't stand her in the books.
Okay, because in the TV series, it's yes, she is all these bad things that people say about her, but there is more to her character than just that.
Lena Headey's just doing such a great job every week, knocking out of the park. She's so good. She makes her character fun to watch, but when you're reading her in book form, it's kind of it's not that interesting.
And I'm wondering if Cersei too this week. It seems is she trying to play the game more by pretending to be nice to people? Now she's kind of talking with her father Tywin and kind of saying, "Oh, you're right. It's about the legacy, and I'll do what it takes, and blah blah."
Go ahead and convict Tyrion for me while you're at it, though. And then with Oberyn, same thing. It's you wonder. First of all, that scene was kind of cool because, and again, I'm not thinking about the books at all. I'm just thinking of just hypotheticals because, Benioff and Weiss may go away from the books. They've said publicly they may do something different. So it almost seemed when she was talking to Prince Oberyn, she was either because he is on the council, or I guess the judges, for the trial, trying to be hey, you and I are alike. I lost a son, you lost your sister, you and I are alike. But at the same time, I almost was waiting for her to maybe offer a proposal. Marriage, you know what I mean? Maybe we could hook up, and build an alliance. You're very powerful and strong. I'm very powerful and strong. It was a great conversation. It could go a lot of different ways with that.
Yeah, and she's also talking about the love she has for her daughter, who is in Dorne right now.
Yeah.
And with the present and all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, Cersei, I don't know. She still thinks Tyrion did it, and I still think deep down she knows that Tyrion didn't.
Right.
And that's just my guess. Is I think she knows it, but she doesn't care.
And she hates Tyrion, so she wants some reason just to get him out of her life forever. And this is the one good way. Because even you can tell his dad isn't even that. He's not a vengeful guy against Tyrion. He's just look, I'm a judge. I can't talk to you about the trial outside of the the courtroom. So that's going to be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also have Peter Baelish, taking Sansa to the Vale. And I guess they have to use this alternate name for her, so no one knows that Sansa's there. Right. There was a big reveal in this episode, or in this scene with Peter Baelish.
We see who the puppet master is.
Yeah, because now we find out that he convinces Lysa to poison Jon Arryn. Because the whole time we're thinking she had sent that message to her sister Catelyn, and so we're thinking, oh, it's the Lannisters. It's the Lannisters.
Right, yeah.
No, actually, Peter Baelish is pulling some.
This is from back in the day, because
this is first episode.
Because we never even got to see Jon Arryn except for dead on a slab. Yeah, exactly. So now we know who was pulling the strings before Ned even thought about going to King's Landing. So Peter Baelish he's crazy. And I love to see, and of course you see the crazy kid, Robin, her son is just, I want to see that man fly, just kind of a crazy kid. But then I love the moment between Lysa and Sansa. That was a great moment when they were, having some desserts, and she's squeezing her hands, and basically she's jealous of her because we do know that Littlefinger loved Catelyn Stark. That's who he wanted to be with. That's who he fought, even fought for her at one point in his life. And, Sansa resembles her. She has the hair. She's very pretty, and that's why she's why are you around? You haven't even, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? So that was a really good scene.
Well, yeah, Lysa is off the wall crazy.
She's crazy.
Same with her son, where Peter Baelish, she's not crazy. He's just evil.
Yeah, he's very smart.
He's smart, but he's evil.
Because even you can see like when they were kissing, he was just kind of like,
no,
yeah.
And she was like going crazy, like yelling and screaming, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, yeah, she said she was going to be heard from all over the Vale. So
creepy.
It was nice going back to the Vale, though. I love the special effects, the CG.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, I know we talked about this. Michelle MacLaren, who's one of my favorite TV directors, has worked on X-Files and Breaking Bad, and of course Game of Thrones. Did a great job shooting this episode. It was really spectacular.
Yeah, the cinematography. I mean, the cinematography in Game of Thrones is always fantastic, but this one I noticed it more, especially with the production value of all the stuff. Like, we talk. Let's talk about Daenerys. Even it's a short scene, but they're in this one room, and it's like a different style than we've seen before.
Right.
And we learn about how she's not going to be leaving. To go to Westeros, even though it might be the most opportune time.
Because I know a lot of people that are wanting to be like, when's Dany going to get involved? When is she going to actually get going? Well, it looks like she said she wants to rule, so she needs to look after the places that she's conquered. And it is kind of frustrating, even from a book reading standpoint. Let's say like what I'm not talking about in the future, but I'm talking about currently right now while you're reading. It's like you do want her to go to Westeros and kind of meet the people over there and get things going. And because especially like when she almost seems so isolated over there, and like, I mean, as a non-book reader, what do you think about her over there? Does that like interest you? Does her story sometimes seem too distant or?
Not so much so distance, but they do slow it down sometimes. There's season 2, when she was kind of walking the Red Way, there was a lot of slowdown there. It picked up in season 3, and then it's really been picking up in season 4. But now we kind of gotten to another standstill because now she needs to go re-liberate the places that
One more time, yeah.
And I understand the reasoning because she wants like her word to matter and her like she doesn't want to be like, okay, I free these people, but then I leave, and then all the bad shit happens again. Another other masters come in, or other kings and all that stuff. So I think she wants to assert her power.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense, but in the story-wise, it's like, okay, well now she's gonna go do that.
Right.
Who knows when she's gonna actually cross the narrow sea?
Right. And I really like the conversation in the beginning between Sir Barristan and Jorah. I like the strategizing, like well, with 8,000 Unsullied and 2,000, like could we? And they're like, well. Jorah's not so sure, but then he's like, well, if we surprise him, Barristan's like, if we surprise him, get in there, they don't see us coming, maybe we could do it. But then I did like Jorah was like, look, 8,000, 10,000 men is not enough to conquer all the 7 kingdoms, And
it's only enough to possibly take over King's Landing. But if you take King's Landing, that doesn't mean you have Westeros.
Right, and I always love that Jorah always jabs her, because Dany's like, Barristan said this. He's like, they'll want to rally to her and all that, and they're like, no, the houses are gonna rally behind the side they think is gonna win.
Which is
true.
Always
they don't see these kings as saviors. Like they just want good food. They want to feel safe, and that's it.
Also, what position? Who decide with will get them the better position?
Right. Right.
In the end,
who's gonna make them the most money?
Exactly. That's why you had Roose Bolton and Walter Frey jump to the Lannister side, even though they were supposed to be loyal to the Starks.
Right. And then I guess I want to go on just to talk about, I guess I'm curious to hear if you found this. We're going to jump back to King's Landing real quick. And we'll talk about the whole discussion with Tywin and Cersei about the Iron Bank. And to see if that interests you at all, because the Iron Bank is something you always hear alluded to. It's this, it's the bank, man. If you don't pay your debts, they come after you. But it is interesting to actually hear the economics. It's nice because it is nice to see that these kingdoms just don't flourish on nothing. He talks about, even though I guess it's kind of boring economics, but I mean, there's been no gold mined in a long time. There's no grams, there's no ounces, there's no tons, there's nothing. We've had to borrow everything.
Well, that's where the Lannisters' money has been coming from, and I guess that has stopped, not just now.
But even Tywin seems intimidated by this Iron Bank. Like, he talked to Cersei, like, these people are serious. Like, you don't mess with these people. They'll always be there. Like, even if we attack them or did something, like, they're always going to be there. So, like, I think that was kind of interesting to bring in the Iron Bank in the whole conversation.
And, we know that Stannis and Davos were talking about that. Yeah. Remember, Davos wrote some letter to the Iron Bank under Stannis' name, and I'm sure that plays in next episode or the rest of the season. I guess what we need to see, as someone who hasn't read the book, we need to see how dangerous this Iron Bank
Right, just talking about doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
It doesn't even say anything.
We have to see like someone who doesn't pay their debts and like see like how brutally things happen to them.
Right.
You know, tortured, murdered, or something bad, because you got to have that fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if even Tywin's afraid of
them,
then they obviously are very dangerous.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's going to be. So hopefully we get some more of that. I mean, it's crazy because we're already halfway there. But in that, I guess you can go maybe start talking about our favorite duo. And all well, there's 2 duos now.
Yes.
Maybe let's talk with the more popular one first. Let's talk about Arya and the Hound. Yeah,
I can watch a whole show on that.
Yeah, they're great. They should have their own spin-off show. They're awesome. I love when he's just naming all the names, like what you're gonna mention every single person in Westeros. So he's like, all right, go ahead, finish. Then she says the Hound. Is one of the people that she wants to kill.
She's got some balls on her.
Oh, she's tough.
Yeah, she's got way more bravery than most of the people in the show.
And I love the fight scene and like him kind of teaching her because. What's interesting is she carries a small weapon.
Yes.
Prince Oberyn, it seems like the Eastern people and then Dorne, like they don't carry big, massive, giant swords. And he's like, you need big armor and big swords. Prince Oberyn doesn't fight like that. Bravos, what was her teacher's name? The water dancer.
Yeah.
Like he wore light. Like they don't wear heavy armor. They dance. They're kind of flashy, a little different type of fighting style. She hasn't perfected it yet, so she doesn't know how to use it against the Hound. But it was interesting to see him like teach her, like, no, you need a big sword and strong.
But
armor.
also, she's not
she's tiny too.
Yeah,
I mean, the Hound's like
her
huge.
age and her size.
Right.
She doesn't have any strength.
Right.
Not with that little weapon, but maybe if she goes older, she holds like maybe a lighter sword.
Yeah.
That could pierce the armor, but not with that.
No, that little needle. Yeah, needle can't do that. So that's I always enjoy seeing them.
And so, like the other duo we're talking about, Brienne and Podrick.
Yeah,
they're hilarious because it's like Podrick, even though he's like technically a squire, he really hasn't done any of the squire like stuff because he was doing it for Tyrion.
He even admitted he just pours wine basically.
Exactly,
yeah.
But he did gain a little respect because he told Brienne the story of how he saved Tyrion's life and. I think that was cool. And how hilarious, though, was the scene when he's trying to ride the horse.
All like
and it's going all over the place.
Yeah.
And I love the shot because it cuts to this wide shot, and all you see is the shadows.
Yeah.
And you just see Podrick just trying to control the horse.
And I like, too, the scene like when he burns a rabbit. He's like, you never cooked rabbit before. And he's just like, no. He's like, who made it? He's like, well, the cooks did all the cooking. I didn't have to do it. So, I mean, it was just great seeing them. And she was nice and let him, do something useful, like, get her armor off. So, I mean... That's a nice little relationship. I like Brienne, such a good character. I miss Brienne and Jaime together. Yeah. I'd rather have Brienne and Jaime on a road trip together again, even though we already had that. But Podrick's a great character too, and he's getting a lot to do in the season so far.
Okay. Yeah. And then we have finally Craster's Keep.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff went down.
What I thought might happen didn't happen.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not from the books. I mean, we thought that there'd be an eventual. What I meant is an eventual meeting between a reunion. Sorry, between Jon and Bran, and then I was like, oh, and it didn't happen.
We didn't see the reunion, but we did get to see some cool sequences. Yeah. I mean, my favorite part of the whole thing was Hodor with Bran. Controlling Hodor, because they had foreshadowed this in previous episodes, him controlling animals and him controlling Hodor that one time.
Yeah.
So I was very satisfying to see him pick up the Roose Bolton's like Weasley double agent guy.
Just break his neck, man.
Bring up and just snap his neck. I thought that was awesome.
But poor Hodor. Yeah. Like, with his bloody hands, like, Hodor. I mean, he doesn't want to kill anybody. He's a gentle giant.
Yes.
Oh, poor Hodor. But I mean, he did what he had to do. I mean, and you talked about this. Some of this stuff was a little bit silly. I mean, I shouldn't say silly because I know it's going to be important to the story at some point. But just seeing that whole vision of like,
tree.
We're all leading you, like we're just going to be accompanying you. You must go. It's too much like Lord of the Ringsy. It's like it's too much like the One Ring. I'm like, okay, like we don't need all that. It's just I know it's part of the story, but in this episode, it almost felt out of place. Yeah. I think that's the thing with Bran. Like I like the characters playing; they're fine, but it's just every time they bring all that stuff in, it just seems to disrupt the flow of everything else.
Yeah. But then also the thing is remember I talked about how with Bran's storyline, even though I'm not as interested, that it was combining with Jon Snow's storyline, and therefore I was much more interesting. Well, now it looks like it's going to split off again.
Yeah.
So much for that idea.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to see each other because Jon would prevent him from going up north and seeing the three-eyed raven and blah 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 blah. So yeah.
And then the other cool sequence we had was Jon Snow fighting the guy from Pacific Rim.
Good fight.
Basically the head of the mutiny.
Yeah,
guy.
He's a really good actor. I wonder. I mean, I guess he doesn't really serve much of. What's interesting about that character is I'm trying to figure out what this whole story served as a purpose for. Like, I guess. I want to see the payoff of this. Like, the women just end up staying. They burn the place. Like, let's burn this mother down. Yeah. They burn the place down. The guys are all looking on, like, and then I'm curious to see what the payoff of this is. Besides Bran going up north, like, what does this mean for Jon Snow? I'll be curious to see how they tell that story as the season keeps going.
I don't know. Perhaps maybe he, by the remaining people who are left, see his leadership qualities.
Yeah, he did a good job. Yeah.
He did end up killing that one guy with the help of the girl.
That's true. Yep.
But that was a cool fight sequence, and then how he died with the sword through.
Right.
And so hopefully that helps out Jon in the future. But yeah, we don't know story-wise where that's going.
Right. Yeah.
Something to do with the White Walkers eventually.
Yeah, something. I mean, they're always creeping around. I see, the wolves, the dire wolves get set free. That was always nice. I want to see them locked up, so that was nice. But I mean, this was a good episode. I guess I could call this kind of a simple episode. There wasn't too much. Like some of our episodes, like there's always a lot going on, but this one was, I don't know. I guess it felt a little tighter.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Last week's had the least amount of location changes.
That's true. That's true.
So this one was a little broader. We didn't see Tyrion, which is very rare. Very rare we didn't see Tyrion at all.
Right, yeah.
We still haven't really gotten into the whole Reek / Theon Greyjoy stuff.
Looks like for the preview we might get some of that next week.
Yeah, same with Stannis. It looks like we're going to get some more Stannis,
Melisandre, none of that.
But I thought it was an excellent episode.
Yeah.
We got to see, I think we finally got to see some bad guys die in horrific ways.
That's true. The bad guys.
I know we saw Joffrey die earlier this season, which was satisfying, but we all wish that it was worse.
Right. Yeah.
And then we get to see these other guys get what was coming to them.
Yeah, it was a solid episode. I guess it wasn't one of my favorite episodes of the season. I love Michelle McLean. I think she did a good job directing. It was a good episode. Again, whenever I say this isn't my favorite episode, I would say an hour of Game of Thrones, even if it's a bad hour of Game of Thrones, is still a damn good hour of television. So when I say it's not one of my favorite episodes, I didn't like it as much, it's still good TV. I still enjoyed watching. I can't wait for the next
There's
episode.
no bad hour of Game of Thrones.
Well,
there might be like little sequences
lesser
or
than
scenes that aren't that great, but I've never seen a whole episode where I'm like, oh, that was a bad episode. No, very minor stuff, and I actually think this was one of my favorite ones of the season so far. So I'm very happy with it, and I think things are going to start picking up from here.
Oh, definitely, yeah, it should be good.
All right, guys, so that's what we thought of this episode of Game of Thrones. You can post your comments below on the website, thinkhero.com, or on our YouTube channel, Think Hero Pro. Make sure to subscribe to that.
You also come find us on Twitter. We're at ThinkHero. I'm at GriffinDE.
And we also have a Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ThinkHeroFans. Make sure you like that page and share our videos on Twitter, Facebook, and all their social media.